Scully goes to a family Christmas out of town and is quickly pulled away by a mysterious beckoning phone call. The call came from a house where a young mother has just committed suicide.
Scully embarks on a strange emotional journey to figure out who the woman was and even more, who the little girl really is.
This is not happening.
I don't know what to tell you. Pack Mail does confirm that there was an incoming call from this address to your brother's house. But from this end, they show no outgoing call. Plus, they confirm the phone here's been off the hook for the last 3 hours.
What was their explanation?
The records mix up software collection. It's obviously just some kind of mistake. Anyway, I gotta wrap things up. Talk to the husband. Oh, listen, weird phone calls aside. This is looking pretty straightforward. A lot of people check themselves out around Christmas time.
Welcome back, everybody, to This Is Not Happening, an X-Files podcast. Today we are talking about Christmas Carol. This one is written by Vince Gilligan, John Shaban, and Frank Spotnitz, and it was directed by Peter Markle. And we haven't seen a lot of him. Doesn't do a lot for the X-Files, but he certainly does a lot in this one. Yeah. Hey, Mike, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Excellent. All ready for Christmas in the middle of July or August? I don't know where you are.
Well, we're very close to when the nation actually starts celebrating it, so...
Only 150 days till Christmas.
I mean, right after the 4th of July, it's go time. You combine it with Halloween.
You just can't buy anything until Black Friday because, no one has any money anymore.
Right. It's a fine episode. Not to jump ahead, but it's not one for me necessarily. I think the revelations in it aren't as powerful as maybe they wanted them to be. And I think that's evidenced by the future of the show. I'll just leave it at that for now.
I can't argue the veracity of that statement. So there's a lot of things in this episode you don't like.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's a fine episode. It's done well, acted well. I think the mythology part of it is less stuff we don't know and more stuff we already kind of pieced together through other episodes. So I think the pull of this episode is like, hey, this is happening to one of our heroes now, so now we have to care about it more. And it just didn't hit me quite like maybe they wanted it to.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it's important to note that apart from a very brief cameo that was probably shot 6 months before the episode was produced, David Duchovny is not in this episode. He is busy promoting his film Playing God, which was a flop at the box office. He's not in the episode, so they had to do they basically had to do a 3 for Gillian Anderson, that is to say when she was off being pregnant, and we had an episode with just David Duchovny on his own. So now we have an episode with Gillian Anderson on her own. So that is this episode, and it is Christmas at the Scullys. So I guess without further ado, shall we dive into Christmas Carol?
Yeah.
All right. So we open with Tara Scully, I'm guessing.
Hate this woman.
This is Bill Scully's wife, who is busy decorating for Christmas, and Mark Snow is on full Christmas music overdrive. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you'll have thoughts on his music scores in this particular episode, but there can be no mistaking this is Christmas. Between the giant tree and all the dozens of tchotchkes. But anyway, it is Christmas, and Mrs. Scully and Dana Scully and all the Scullys are now at home at the Scullys. And it's Bill's deployment digs on a base, which we'll come to find is very useful in the production sense because they don't have to deal with a lot of different locations.
Yeah.
All of the flashbacks can be done in the same house because Scully goes, I can't believe how much this looks just like our home when we grew up. So bravo to them for figuring out a way to make that work.
And, that shouldn't be surprising. Gilligan, he can do anything.
It's true. It's true. And I will preface this by saying that I know I have seen this episode at least 2 times. So, I mean, not to jump way forward to the end, but when we have our big reveal at the end, it blew me away again, and I'm surprised it did, but I think that speaks to the quality of how they engineer the reveal.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get into that yet. So, We got a nice moment where Mrs. Scully, Dana's mom, is wandering around looking at the living room and has a little moment. Mom, what's wrong? Says Dana. And she basically says, oh, I'm just thinking about your dad and Melissa. And, there's a nice little gut punch to Scully because there's that moment of, oh, thanks for just reminding me how I was kind of instrumental in everybody's dying around you. But okay.
Well, at least not her dad.
Not her dad, yeah.
Not her dad. Unless she filled him full of fried foods her whole life.
So it is a nice setup because then Scully she takes a call. So like the phone is ringing and nobody's answering. So, she does the thing that everybody does, Scully residence. And we hear a voice on the other phone, a sort of airy woman's voice telling Scully, she needs you. Go to her, Scully. And, I guess it doesn't say Scully. That'd be very impersonal. But she, being an FBI agent, having lots of tools at her disposal, traces the call, which leads us to the dead woman's house. I gotta say right off the bat, poor Scully. She is not 3 minutes into her vacation, and the forces of the X-Files are going to drag her kicking and screaming into investigation mode.
Well, see, no, I have issue with that because she obviously had a plane flight where she was just fine.
Yeah, because we all know the best part of a vacation is the plane flight.
Oh, absolutely. She had plenty of shut-eye.
Pre 9/11.
From D.C. to San
She probably
Diego.
got to go up front in the cockpit and had all sorts of drinks. All right, take it all back. Yeah, she was dreading going to the house. I mean, she was going to get a fistful of resentful Bill.
Bill character. Yeah, see my brother.
So she gets herself a mystery. And here's my note. Good Christmas music, Snow. So they're burning over to the house, and apparently the entire police force has landed for an apparent suicide. There are so many cops, like they're falling over themselves in this place.
I know she traces it immediately, but I'm sure she probably tried after that. Who knows?
I would bet that.
Speaking of that, side note, all the TV shows are like, we got to trace this call. Don't let them hang up.
Yeah.
How do post-call traces work? Because that happens a lot in this show. All I can think of is like triangulating the position. Don't let them hang up.
That's a very modern take on it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly in San Diego, they are up on their phone tracing technology because, like, yeah, it is like, oh, the address is this, and she's in the truck. Later on, I guess in Emily, Mulder's going to do another call trace while they're on the phone, and it also works, apparently. Listen, it works when the plot demands it needs to work. Yeah, in Pusher, it demanded that the trace take 22 minutes,
Yeah, Pusher, they just...
That's right. So, anywho, she gets herself over to the other end of the phone, and she has no idea what's going on over there, and of course the audience doesn't either. And it becomes quickly clear that the timing for the phone call doesn't work, so none of this is possible, and she's getting a lot of sidelong looks of who is this weirdo FBI lady. So, yeah, but we are introduced... We're introduced to Detective, I don't even know what his name is. I'm just calling him
Kresge.
Sure, I just call him Detective Hansen.
And
that's really all we care about.
Recurring character actor. Last seen, I believe, in F. Emasculado as the escaped prisoner.
Is he really? Oh,
he's the guy with the really long hair with the gooey pustule on his face. Yep.
Wow, that's fascinating. That a beard and mustache does that to him. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, we have a very confused Scully, and of course we're all confused because how can the phone call be made if the phone is hung up on or not hung up on their end? But we introduce the idea that this was Melissa because Scully name drops Melissa to Bill as the one who made the call, and we throw to the opening credits. So
can I just say that this episode may have been the impetus for CSI because Kresge drops a Grissom one-liner here. She called you? Must have dialed 1-800 the great beyond.
Yeah, and that was a horrible, imagine the shades going on. I could see it. But that's not the writer's finest hour, that particular
man
line drop.
I mean, come on.
Well, listen, they're known for their dark sense of humor in San Diego, right? And
It's not even dark. It's just lame. It's like, come on, dude.
yeah, could have done better. That's a real dead phone call? No, I don't know. Sure, we could brainstorm some better ones right now if we wanted, but we're not gonna. So
That line was dead.
She really got hung up on.
All episode.
Yeah, that's right. It's nothing but puns from here on in, folks. Buckle up. So we are now back at the Scully household, where we're sitting down to a decadent Christmas meal, and they're talking about kids. Everybody loves the kids. She's so pregnant, gonna have the kid, and she wants to have even more kids all the time.
I want to kill this woman.
Yeah.
I hate her. She is so overacted. This actress, I'm sure she's great, whatever. She got the job. I didn't.
Do you think you could have
She
done a better job
sucks.
as Bill's
I
wife?
could have.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just deliver a line without it being the happiest thing you've ever fucking done.
Well, clearly she's been directed that way, right?
I know.
She needs to be the bright light of happy. Yeah, exactly. She's so pregnant.
Life is just a prelude before children. I'm so happy.
But that's all set up so that we can feel extra bad when Scully reveals that as a result of her abduction and cancer and all the other litany of bad things that have happened to her over the last 4 or 5 seasons, she is not able to conceive children. And it's interesting, right? Because we haven't really ever thought of that happening for Scully. I don't think it's really come up. She's dabbled in relationships, but she's walked away from them. So, clearly her life is her work. But she does sort of make that, I think at this point she makes that point that it's like, you don't know you want something until the possibility of it is taken away from you. So I thought that was a neat moment. And I wanted to ask you what you thought of Scully's call to Mulder that she makes and then decides to hang up on him.
I think it's clever. It's a cool way of showing us that she wants to handle this.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to feel like she can or always needs to rely on Mulder, even though the rest of the show, obviously, they do that kind of stuff. But I think in this one, it just felt a little bit more personal right off the bat for her. So I don't think it's bad. I think it's kind of interesting that instinctually she would call Mulder, but then something inside of her is just telling her to pursue it on her own.
Yeah, and I think the influence of Bill is present there. Like
maybe
he's clearly in the past has had big issues with Mulder. So to imagine that, again, she's in town for 20 minutes now, and she's going to be like, hey, guess who's coming to dinner? Just thought I'd invite him down. He doesn't really have anybody for Christmas,
On that note, what is Mulder wearing? What she calls him, that little...
Yeah.
Obviously, it's winter, but I mean, like,
yeah,
he must have been just jogging and running into his apartment with like this red floppy hat.
He's wearing a shirt for a hat, something like that.
Yeah. As soon as she tells him that the voice sounded like her sister, he'd be on a plane.
Oh, absolutely.
No other descriptions.
I got 4 X-Files to talk about ghost voices on a phone.
Yep.
I think it's a very, very simple and effective way of telling the audience, no, this is going to be a Scully episode. We're not going to see Mulder in this one, because she hangs up on him basically, and he gets this one little cameo to remind us that he's a guy that's in the show. But otherwise, nope, he's not going to be around for this one.
And if they didn't do that, there'd be some asshole out there going, "Where's Mulder in this episode?"
You need to have the guy at least appear on screen so we can validate the episode. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we get through dinner after that little revelation that she's not going to be able to have kids. And Mom is obviously, doing her mom thing. She's not horrible in this episode, I found. She only a little bit preachy a little later on. But
yeah,
for the
you
most
don't
part,
seem to be happy. Oh,
yeah.
Margaret.
We were expecting you for lunch. So we get the first of our 3 flashbacks where Bill proves that he is as much of an asshole in his young life as he becomes in his adult life. He's threatening to boil Dana's rabbit.
Little did he know
Yeah,
Little
maybe,
did
right?
he know that she found the best hiding spot for this rabbit.
Oh, that rabbit's been there
And
a
she
while.
made sure that rabbit could not get out of that. You're going to stay here.
I guarantee you would have heard that rabbit. You would have heard there have been a little bit of rattling around in that box.
Yeah. Ugh. It's a disturbing shot.
What does that say about Dana? That she is prepared to suffocate a rabbit for the sake of keeping
The
it?
idea is she was too young to realize that she was going to kill something.
Yeah, okay. I like your optimistic assessment that she's not a psychopath.
Well, it goes with the episode because there's that protection element, right?
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
She wants to protect the little girl. Almost obviously because she looks up from the dead rabbit, and the girl who plays Emily is on the stairs watching her.
Right.
So I guess that's the connection we're supposed to make.
That is the ham-handed psychoanalytical connection we're going to draw here. Which is
I
good.
did want to shout out Mark Snow here for real, though. He gets really cool with those kind of discordant sounds during the flashback. It gets really cool.
I'd agree with that. So, yes, we have the rabbit covered with maggots, and we see young Emily has been invading Scully's dream, and she wakes up suddenly to find her cell phone ringing. And I gotta ask, the cell phone versus the home phone and these calls that keep on coming to Scully, I don't know. I just feel like, is this... All right. I don't even know what to think. I'm so discombobulated. The calls
Ladies
are coming...
and gentlemen, he is not happy.
Okay. Let me bring up my bullet list of questions here. So... no, I actually am legitimately confused because these calls are clearly coming from Emily, right? This is what we learn later, is that they are engineered somehow by Emily to get Scully to go and be involved. They're not coming from Melissa, because Melissa is in no way involved in this.
I don't think...
See?
Are you saying Emily's actually dialing the phone?
No, she's clearly not, because the phone was off the hook the first time. So I think she's got this superpower where she can invade the phone system and make people's phones ring.
Honestly, I see what you're saying.
Like, there is no follow-up to why this is happening other than, it's a phone system glitch that just happened to happen. It happens 3 times.
I think it's a combination of they need to move the story along. They want it to be paranormal, so they have to have an entity or something driving Scully.
Yep.
But they want to make it look cool, kind of like the tattoo appearing on her partner who got shot in the bank robbery episode.
Yeah.
Lazarus. The tattoo moving is the way to show us that something crazy is happening, right?
Yes.
So this is their way of showing us that something paranormal is happening. I don't know. Like, I always just attributed it to, okay, she's hearing voices. She's hearing her sister's voice, and she's getting weird phone calls. So Melissa's just manipulating the phone lines and sending her messages, I guess. I don't know.
But I would agree with that. I mean, obviously, the bulk of the episode is designed to convince us that it's Melissa. Melissa is involved. Melissa is directing this. This is Melissa's child. And I give him credit for that. But near the end, they make it pretty definitive that Melissa is in no way involved. She's not the driving force we thought that she was. So having done that, I look back and I go, well, then where did these phone calls come from? And Emily is this special little girl with all sorts of special things. And I start wondering, well, is it in fact Emily that's the one who is, it doesn't have to be her saying she's in trouble, you need to go help her, but it could be, turning on something in Dana's mind that makes her hear that sentiment and in a voice that, she would be finding compelling. I could be stretched to believe that as the reason for this happening, but by not explaining it, I feel it's a little sloppy, and
It is.
And I suppose they're leaving it unsaid so that we can fill in the blanks. I don't need to have it, tied in a little bow for me, but I just wish they had done a little bit more to make it
more real.
They could at least, put a flower on top, that would be nice.
Very artful.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about Artful at the beginning of Emily with that intro dream sequence. I mean, that is some high quality, fancy pants art. But anyway, I suppose the audience is like sitting there slapping the thing to get us to continue. So,
move on!
All sorts of phones are being used to make Scully get the idea that something is not right at the Sim house. So, we got another call from Melissa, and now she goes over to the crime scene, and she is again rebuffed by Mr. Sim. No one's made the call here. This is a very difficult time. I'm having a meeting. Don't you know how hard it is? But she just got the call, so she figures somebody's awake over there messing with you. So she feels like a stupid head and drives off, and Emily is watching from the window, ominously. This is why I'm thinking that it was Emily making the phone calls, not, actually, but with her mind to mess up the phone system, because she is so directly, swung to with the camera.
Save me.
Basically, yeah. Or what? Not even save me. She doesn't.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know what she wants.
Yeah. Not to keep going on it. Because Melissa's dead, she's in tune with what's happening here and knows Emily is Scully's daughter.
All right, so you're pro Melissa in this episode?
I'm pro Melissa.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I have not thought about it as hard as you did. Maybe I'm just...
I didn't think of it. It's super hard, but I just think the bait and switch is complete, and thus removing Melissa from the equation makes me go back and think about, well, what really was this? But clearly Emily is more important than Melissa is, right? She gets one flashback and a few pictures, and that's it. Anyway, let's go on. Scully goes to visit the police, where we get some nice flippant banter with Detective Handsome. He says, like, what has it been, 4 hours?
I actually like that line. It's been, what, 4 hours? I was getting worried.
Better line than the, Great Beyond line.
Yes, the writers have improved.
Agent Scully, it's been, 4 hours? I was getting worried.
I'd like to order an autopsy on Roberta Sim. There's a possibility she was murdered.
What, you got another phone call?
I think it may have been the husband.
Where'd you get that idea? You want coffee?
No, thanks.
He's got an ironclad alibi. Mr. Sim was at the doctor's office with his daughter. He was there all morning. I checked.
I took another look at the police photos this morning. There were no hesitation cuts on Roberta Sim's wrist. Suicide victims seldom make the fatal cut on the first try.
Seldom, but not always. Is that all you got?
No. Why was the phone off the hook when you got to the Sims house?
The wife took it off. I'm guessing she didn't want to be interrupted.
Your incident report says that the husband called the police after he discovered his wife dead.
Yeah.
But if the phone was off the hook when you arrived, how did he call you? Did he find the phone off the hook, call you, and then have the presence of mind to return it to the way that he'd found it? Does that make sense to you?
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that there are questions which beg further investigation. Order an autopsy.
So they do some low quality flirting, and she wants to get access to the case file. And I love his response: "There is no file. It was a suicide. We're done. We're moving on.
We're done."
She does not let it go. She decides she needs a bit more information here to put herself at ease, her thoughts at rest. And
I think that's good.
I don't know, but I do like that. It's enough. To show that she's invested and she's got some questions. She borrows a picture of Emily, and she's now on the Melissa train. She goes home and compares it to a photo album where it's eerily the same as Melissa at the same age. And after the commercial, we learn that Emily was adopted.
Dun, dun, dun.
So the plot sickens.
The pieces are falling together.
We got a nice call in for Danny. It's not just...
We're tracking Danny, but no screen time, Danny.
So she gets him to send the complete case files on Melissa to the San Diego office. I mean, it is now the Melissa episode without actually having Melissa in the episode. She has one cameo.
It was nice to see her again.
But we are now going to have dream number 2. This dream is Emily, because Emily is going to do the casket viewing of her mom at the funeral. Or maybe it's in real life and she's having her weird little out-of-body experience. And
They're not very
Quite
clear
boring.
on it.
Well, the conceit so far has been these are Scully's flashbacks.
Yeah.
But I think maybe they're doing this to sort of illustrate a bond between them that is developing. Because anyway, no wonder the kid playing Emily is a little bit messed up, and they had to recast her. Because I mean, it's not a bit hard there to put this child actor through. Because, you know, the casket is open and mom is
full of water.
Underwater, and her eyes open, and the eyes opening is a little bit. I mean, it's freaky. It's good X-Files, but I don't understand why. Because mom is clearly gone. You know, I don't know what.
Yeah, she's not
that
coming
particular
back.
image was supposed to relate. Although maybe, no, I don't even know, and I can't even conject. I don't feel like they gave us enough to really go on there.
No, I think Scully is putting herself. This particular nightmare
is this Scully dreaming? I'm sorry.
I think this is Scully having a nightmare, and her looking up, because this is the little girl who plays Scully in the last nightmare, right? So that would be Scully. I think like her subconscious is putting herself in what she appears would be Emily. So she's playing Emily, but it's actually her. And when she looks up, she sees Mr. Sim.
Right.
And she's like putting these pieces together, and I think the nightmares are just trying to give us those subtle clues that these two are related.
Yeah. Well, and because
I mean, they don't go into it, so there's really no way to know, but if you want to dive into it, maybe that's something we could do or draw a conclusion.
I think you're right. I think it is Scully's dream, because the next scene, she's woken up by Bill.
Yeah.
So it's her dream. So she's dreaming Emily's experience, or they're mentally connected or something. But
yeah, she's woken up by her dickhole brother.
Aren't you supposed to be on vacation? Why don't you spend time with me?
I want to see you. Why are you working so hard?
I want to tell you how happy I am going to be a dad.
I'm happy.
Wait till Christmas, where I'm really happy.
We're going to unwrap him like Jesus. Come back for lunch. I miss her already.
I'll just read my paper.
Yeah.
So she goes back to the police station, and
I'm sorry. I fucking hate that guy.
it's one with the boss. He's so funny. So she goes back to the cop shop. She gets a little bit of sass from Detective Handsome, but convinces him that the death is suspicious and that they should order an autopsy.
Time.
So I was, in my notes as I was writing this up, I was like, well, why does Dana get to do the autopsy? Is it because it's her show and they can't hire another actor to be the coroner? And then, like, literally the coroner is in the scene with them. Like,
I love that the coroner is just some old bastard who's like, yeah, it could be this, but I really think you're just a new ager.
Yeah. So they don't find the meds in Mrs. Sims' system, which is suspicious. That is, I think they do a tox screen, they find it, but they don't find the pill casings, which I guess would be the thing. Yeah. And they do find a little needle puncture on her foot. They almost missed it. And it was meant
to be overlooked.
Well, exactly. Yep. So I think the old guy's in on it, because he's like, it could be a needle puncture. It could
have just stepped on a tack.
That's right. In my day,
I don't write everything down in my autopsy. I like to just overlook things and leave them out, because I really don't want
this was a suicide. That's how I ruled it, because I'm a team player.
It's like toe tag lady in Shadows. It said
his
name on the toe tag. That's how I knew who it was.
That's what his name said on the toe tag. All right, so on the basis of all this conjecture, they feel they got enough to do a search on Mr. Sim's house, and this leads us back to the house where we have Mr. Sim arriving to do the bewildered walkthrough with the cops searching the apartment and paying him absolutely no attention whatsoever. And I'm sorry, I just feel like the minute he shows up on his own property, there'd be a uniform up front saying, sir, you got to stay on this line.
Yeah.
But,
well, it must be a really outside section of San Diego, because this is the coolest thing they've ever experienced. So everyone's showing up.
Guys, did you hear about the suicide? Yeah, we're going to do a search warrant on that.
Sweet. Carpool.
We're going to prosecute that lady for committing suicide. So, anyway,
they just kind of let him through and everything's fine. But Scully's given him quite the stern responses and looks.
Yeah. Well, we'll just see about that, I think was the response to his alibi. This is the best.
We'll check that out.
She said disbelievingly.
They find a disposed needle.
The explanation is it's for the daughter's injections
anemia.
For anemia, yes. So, okay. They're going to do, she's going to have them do a PCR test on the blood. And she sees two ominous men driving away outside.
The same guys she saw the night before.
Mm-hmm. They can be up to no good. They're not government G-men, ominous dudes, but we don't know that yet.
You don't know.
I suppose they
don't ruin it.
They get their cars from the same pool.
The listeners depend on us.
That's right. They have not seen this episode before, so we can't spoil it for them. You had your chance. You've had 14 years to see this. Well, probably more. Anyway, back
just
at the Bill Scully residence, Scully confirms that Emily is Melissa's daughter to a somewhat pissed off Mrs. Scully. You were supposed to be here for lunch.
Yeah, actually, the whole Scully family is very concerned about lunch. So, gotta hold you to that. I'm gonna see you later, right?
Food is their love language, yeah. I mean, it's obviously a trope. They want to see more of her, and they're like using her missing lunch as a substitute for, why weren't you here with us on your vacation? We went to the Olive Garden.
It's authentic Italian, and you missed it.
You've ruined Christmas.
Bill was using breadsticks as walrus tusks.
He did that thing he always does. Well, it's a nice reveal, and I don't know. I feel like the PCR test is a little bit weak. They're using ultimately, this is after the commercial. It's the 60% thing, which is like, oh, okay, so not really authoritative like you presented it before the commercial, but sure. Yeah, there's a bit element of ish there. But I just want to say, why did we miss a perfectly good opportunity to have some 90s CGI?
I was just thinking that.
Why
didn't we get a computer screen with like a bar that's going up, percentage? Bink,
and then we have the two little waveforms phasing in together, and then there's a blinking 100%. But Bink. No, they cheaped out on this episode because, I mean, I'm sorry. If you got bad eyesight, you're like, I'm not a match.
The lines aren't the same.
The writers have a point to make, and I suppose they do. But doesn't this test just prove that the blood might have come from Melissa? I don't think that it would.
Well, they took blood from her and blood from Emily,
right? So
they match. Oh, I'm confused by the question.
Well, before the commercial, it's conclusive, and then after the commercial, it's way less conclusive.
It's 60%.
It just shows you what commercials do to television. So Mrs. Scully is skeptical when she's confronted by this evidence, and I got to say I was a little bit skeptical as well, especially when it come up with, there's a 60% chance we're related. Well, there's a 40% chance you're not related. But
that should have been her line. If she had said that, I'd have a lot more respect for her in this episode.
And then Scully would go, math checks out. But Scully's a dog with a bone here. She's coming up with reasons why it's possible. She was away for some time. She was in contact with us, but Mrs. Scully doesn't believe it. This is the crux of her evidence that says she just can't get behind this idea that Melissa is the mother here. And she assumes quite rightly that maybe Dana's a bit upset about her own recent news and that this is the driving force behind Dana's assertions. She's projecting essentially what she's saying. And I don't know. I like how the plot paints it, but what I really like is how it paints it towards Melissa. Because yes, there's a lot of evidence if you actually knew your X-Files up and down that you'd go, well, wait a second, somebody was pregnant around that time, and you're not talking about that little plot diversion. So, not to spoil it, but yeah, anyway.
Oops.
Yes, sorry, audience. So we
We're just gonna put bleeps over everything you say right here.
That's right. Spoilers. So we go into our flashback number 2, where Dana and Melissa as kids are sneaking some looks at the Christmas presents. Again, they're using the same set. Probably saved a bunch of money on this episode.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, these kids are pretty horrible actors. I don't know about you, but...
Hotel California. And those terrible braces. Ooh,
yeah.
That haircut.
Anyway, yeah, they didn't knock it out of the park here in terms of their...
This is the only show we're going to see.
Yeah. Your careers are made now, kids. So Melissa's not taken with her crucifix gift because Mom comes down and says, "No, you can open them." His mom is apparently spying on them. She says, Melissa says, "Oh, it's pretty." And I like that essentially we learn early on that Melissa is not going to be the religious one.
Yeah. This is where we get a rewrite of when she got the necklace, too. Because
when was she supposed to get the necklace? In
her disappearance, Margaret's talking to Mulder, and she says she got it for her birthday.
Well, maybe she's... Is it possible she's born on Christmas?
Yes.
I know somebody who was born on Christmas.
You just gotta harpoon my points here, don't you?
I await you to tell me, no, Andrew, she was born on April 14th. It said so in this episode.
She does have a birthday in
I'm
one
sure
episode.
She does. Everybody does.
The episode where fucking douchebag bites it. Pendrell, yeah. Yep. He's lovable, but he's an idiot.
He's no Detective Hansen, that's for sure. So at the end of the flashback, we have a weird transposition of young Dana now looking up at current Dana, which I don't understand.
Yeah, they tried a little too hard on this one because I don't get it.
And Tara then bursts in on the dream by announcing Detective Handsome has arrived, and he then tells Dana about some financial irregularities concerning money coming in from a pharma corp. So that's where they're going to go to now.
Yeah, it's coming from $30,000 a pop.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one.
Yeah. So and now money has entered the equation to this murder. Suicide. So we're off to Prangen Pharmaceuticals. That's a weird name.
Prangen.
Thank you for calling Prangen Pharmaceuticals. How can I direct your call? Dr. Calderon, I think is his name. Yeah. Calderon, yes. We learned that from him that Emily is a very sick little girl with a very rare blood disorder that she is in a double-blind trial for. That Mrs. Sim, I think, wasn't into it and wanted to pull Emily from the trial. I will bet there's a whole thing about how Emily was in a lot of pain and it wasn't doing anything for Emily and she just wanted it to stop. And maybe Emily said, "I don't like all these needles. Can we have this stop?"
Mm-hmm. Please let us continue poking your daughter
with
these needles.
It's for science.
Science.
And money. Well, since you put it that way, I suppose Emily could do it just one more time.
We're like, make it 120.
Yeah. But we find out that Mr. Sim reversed the paperwork to get out of this arrangement. So now we have a big old target on Mr. Sim as the motive here. He wanted to keep on getting these $30,000 a pop. Yeah. And I like how they characterize that the money was being paid to Mrs. Sim as a goodwill gesture.
It's very much bad will.
If that wasn't enough to showcase Mr. Sim as a bad guy, Dr. Calderon mentions that, the migraine medication I prescribed Mr. Sim for his headaches. That's totally coincidental, isn't it? So they go and arrest him.
You are under arrest, sir.
Yeah. And I suppose I think this warrants the question, did Mr. Sim actually do it? Well, I think he's also in on it with the aliens, though, because he has that evening meeting with the ominous men. So maybe he's being coerced.
That's kind of what I took from it, but maybe you're right. It was very possible.
I think he's a patsy, ultimately. I think that, he's on the alien side, or as long as his daughter is getting help, and he knows it's complicated. I don't think that he is.
He's not part of the conspiracy. Yeah.
Well, he's a part of it in as much as he knows that there are bigger things happening, and he's like, "Honey, don't make waves."
Yeah.
We're getting money, we're getting treatment for the kid, and He doesn't really want to ask a lot of questions, is my guess.
Good stuff. So Scully abducts Emily.
Yes. It comes full circle, really, this whole abduction angle.
You like it, kid.
So, yes, the abduction of Emily is completed with Dana giving her her cross.
And she kind of grabs at it, which, I think we're supposed to... Ooh, she's drawn to it the same way Scully.
She's drawn to religion.
And she learned how to point out someone's jewelry from Mulder.
Right.
She can grab it while she's wearing it.
It's not weird at all. In 1997.
It's not weird.
I was going to say, not weird if you're a 3-year-old. It's weird if you're a 33-year-old.
Yeah.
At that point, you got issues. So we cut to
the party.
a great party being thrown by Bill Scully, where the Navy is all having a great time. But Dana is not. I can't imagine why.
Bill makes a stupid joke with his stupid face.
Well,
stop talking, Bill.
I think he's using breadsticks to be a walrus. I think that's what
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's his only bit.
This is one thing.
It is funny, but it's his only bit.
Can you imagine the Navy, majors or captains or whatever they are that have come along and say, "Oh, did you go to Scully's party?" Yeah, he did that thing with the breadsticks.
He did the
so
breadsticks again. Oh, he can play a walrus.
Can always have a good time at Bill Scully's parties. Unless you're Dana Scully, which means you can't. Yeah, I would have thought that she'd be a little happier now, right? Because
I have orphaned a child. The dad is in prison. The mom's dead. Job well done, Scully.
That's right. I should go and have a little eggnog.
Why don't you get drunk with the rest of us?
Yeah. So Bill basically tries to get her to forget about this whole Melissa thing and have a great time at my party. And they're about to get into it when we have another phone call for Scully, at which point I was like, oh, please, God, don't let this be Melissa again. But in fact, it's Detective Handsome. Mr. Sim has confessed, but now Scully has doubts because, and I'm with her here, he had such a great alibi. So Scully...
this is kind of where we start getting to the point where I feel bad for Kresge, because anytime he starts to come around to Scully's crazy theories, she goes a different direction. It happens all the time in these 2 episodes. I feel bad for him by the end of these episodes.
Well, I think he is the Scully to Mulder in this case.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's classic Bill Scully, though.
You need to see this from my point of view. Yeah, he's being extra dick. He's like, you can see the dial slowly turning up throughout the episode.
I gotta say, at what point did he think this is going to cheer her up or get her out of her funk?
You're being crazy. Stop being crazy.
Have fun at my party.
I'll go buy some more breadsticks if it'll cheer you up.
I'll do that thing I do. Yeah, so I don't know why the Scullys do this. I'm sure that old man Scully didn't do this. He just sort of went in the other room and, let the rest of the family argue or something. But
well, I don't know. Maybe this is learned behavior, because Scully talks about her dad as being kind of pushy and disappointed in her paths as an adult. So maybe Bill, although I hate him, maybe he did learn this behavior and it wasn't his fault. But since we don't know that for sure, I'm going to go on and continue hating him for him.
Yeah, fair. Okay. We needed to do a little bit more analysis of Bill Scully. I'm sure it made us all feel better. So, she's taken this great opportunity to ditch the party and go off to county lockup to visit with Mr. Sim to get his side of the story. And she sees the 2 ominous men leaving, and she runs out to watch them drive away, where I'm sitting there screaming at her, memorize the license plate.
Right.
But that never comes back. And we learn that the 2 guys identified themselves as Sim's lawyers, were there for only 15 minutes, just enough time to stage a good old hanging suicide.
Yeah, that looks very uncomfortable. I think he's using his sheets wrong.
I don't like to sleep like that.
Prison sucks. You gotta use the sheets in a weird way. I've never seen a sheet before.
At home, my wife does them horizontally. Here, they do them vertically. This isn't right. This isn't comfortable.
He just doesn't know. He's never used a sheep before. All right, I'm done.
For the audience, Mike is crying from laughter.
Ask my wife. This happens.
Oh, my God.
I'll think of something really stupid and just latch onto it. Oh, man. Okay.
Well, I would at this point like to go down a little rabbit hole of alien shape-shifting aliens and how
Keep going.
Mike is done. All right, I will just take this opportunity to natter because Mike is completely absent. So why wouldn't they go into the lockup as guards? Like, why go in as ominous dudes? I don't expect you to have the answer. I just put it out there as like, this is an obvious oversight that they're going to go in as their spooky selves, and they have all these options available to them to shapeshift, but
it's just too easy that way.
It is, and we need to have a little tense moment for Scully. I don't know. You know how I feel about what ifing. It's like that happens when the episode is not hanging together very nicely.
It's a valid point for sure. But I think the X-Files does this at key moments sometimes where it's like, you guys could have just shot Skinner in the head, right?
Yes,
instead of concocting this grand scheme to make him seem insane.
I suppose maybe the credit I will give it is it allows the bad guys to be human or, stupid, for lack of a better term, as well. Like they're not criminal masterminds. They have their oops moments, which allows the heroes to actually take advantage of that. So in this case, they showed up in their regular costumes, in their regular skin bodies.
Right.
And that, they didn't have any reason that they needed to shapeshift. But anyway, and casting back, I would have thought that if Dr. Calderon had just merely said, you know what, we feel really bad about Emily. I don't know what I said, but Mike has lost it again. He's literally on the floor. So back at Bill Scully's, Dana has a nanosecond of alone time when Bill comes in.
Like a creep. Right behind her. Where you been?
We went for lunch. Yeah.
Missed lunch again.
Well, in fact, they're going to go over to the neighbors, I think, because he's got the tray of goodies. And this is where Scully relates that Mr. Sim was killed in a staged suicide. And it looks like there's a nanosecond where it looks like Bill is going to be supportive. And
yeah, right.
Like, no, this is the opportunity for me to stage an intervention where I'm going to hand you a photograph of Melissa 4 weeks before Emily was born. Does she look pregnant to you? And apparently it's interesting, the timestamp on that photograph, like it's a quality prop because it's an actual stamp. Well, it's an actual stamp. More to the point, it's not about the stamp. It's about the lithography, like the repeating pattern of the company name that's on the back. I forget what it's called, and I'm not going to look it up. But apparently
I didn't even notice.
It references back to another episode where it was actually a plot point, this paper company or whatever. I'm afraid I'm going to have to waste time. ETAP is the logo that appears in the back of the photograph shown to Scully by Bill to prove that Melissa could not have been pregnant in 1994. So it's a fictional brand of film first used in Unruhe and later in Small Potatoes.
Nice. I didn't even notice that.
Well, I can read production notes like a champ. Yeah.
Oh, it's not. Oh.
Yeah. I wish I...
If you guys would have noticed, ETAP, which was last seen in Unruhe.
If you pause it and advance 2 frames after 38 minutes in, you will see in the corner.
That's cool, though.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. But anyway, this is Bill being an asshole to say, "Did she look pregnant to you?" And it's like, yes, I understand. And we get to have this conversation again between Bill and Dana, where it's like,
your womb is a barren wasteland. Get over it.
You can't be as happy as me.
The sooner you accept this, the sooner you'll laugh at my walrus face.
Tara is the perfect wife. You are damaged goods. So, yeah, we have our next reveal, which is the woman from the adoption agency is going to take this opportunity to swing by. Thanks for coming by over Christmas. And I get maybe it's a crisis situation because now, Emily doesn't have any kids, but there's a whole foster parenting system out there. I don't know why this adoption is getting fast-tracked, but it is.
Because she's FBI.
Yeah, she pulled in some favors from Danny. That must have been it.
You let me fast-track your adoption. One of his many talents.
He's got 2 talents. He can get you any file you want, and he can fast-track your adoption.
He can trace a phone call, but he can fast-track an adoption. Like,
well, listen,
nobody.
In San Diego, you don't need Danny for that. They do it real fast.
That's true.
Nothing about what she's saying is wrong, though. I mean,
I kind of agree with her.
Yeah.
She detects that the FBI is very important to Scully and doing, a great job, and a child is going to eclipse that immediately, and Scully's probably not as prepared for it as she thinks she is.
I think the adoption lady has watched the last 4 seasons of the X-Files and has realized that no way should you have any charge of any kids in your life.
I've seen the show. You're not ready for this.
I know what happens to you. Yeah. There's going to be a slime monster, and the kid's going to be there, and it's going to be scarred for life. So I give credit to Gillian Anderson in this moment, though. She does a pretty amazing monologue about questioning her priorities. I think it's probably the highlight of the episode. And say what you want about depressing Scully. Give Gillian Anderson a quality bit of dialogue or monologue or whatever, and she will knock it out of the park. And I think this is a case where she does.
Mm-hmm. Cannot go wrong with her.
Yeah. So Emmy-winning material right here, complete with a little bit of the snobbiness with the sobbing she's doing. So yeah, she gets to work with some pretty great material there, and I think it's a really good scene. Mm-hmm. And it does lead us into our next flashback where we, and I do like the transition for this one where she's on the couch and the hand comes in and it's on her shoulder and it's Melissa, and it's like, oh, is this happening in real time or what? But then now Scully's wearing the bathrobe, so it's a really nice transition.
And not to like pile on a good scene or anything, but Scully's wig. Ugh.
Yeah.
They did not spend time on that. They're just like, here you go. You're younger now.
To be fair, they didn't put a lot of time in on that bathrobe either. I mean, it's pretty comfy. But we have Dana at Christmas with Melissa. It's same set. Getting great mileage out of it. But now it's before she's going to go to Quantico, and she's questioning all of her choices, which ties very neatly back to the scene we just had. So good job, writers. And we have a lot of claptrap about Melissa saying it's basically the journey, not the destination, and all the people you're going to meet along the way. So Melissa is definitely playing a very supportive role here.
You have no idea who you're going to get shot in the head
yes.
because of your actions.
That's right.
Thank you for that in advance. Yeah.
Surprising that the scene didn't go that way, actually. That would have been really a nice comic turn. But then we have Tara coming in to wake up Scully.
Stupid.
Would you like to expand on your hatred of Tara? Is that a nice thing?
It's too happy. I want to slap it off her face. That stupid smile.
But it's Christmas morning. They're all happy and excited.
You're 30.
Fair. But I will say this. It's nice not to see Bill being an asshole. It's nice to see him have a moment of genuine happiness.
Did Santa come?
Yeah. I mean, God, this episode's been kind of a slog in some ways. So it's like, oh my God, give them one opportunity to be a happy family. All right. Yeah, because of course the screen cannot allow Scully to have any happiness whatsoever. She gets her package from the FBI. And like I alluded, it's the marvelous reveal. And I think that reveal. Gillian Anderson handles it extremely well with her look of absolute confusion, where it turns out that, in fact, Dana is Emily's mother, not Melissa.
End scene.
End scene. Fade to credits. And just on this point, The X-Files is probably one of the best shows that handles the bait and switch, where they give you one premise and they walk you down the garden path, but then they turn it and show you, no, actually it's this. And you're like, oh, I didn't see that twist coming. That's really good.
This is a great example.
It's a fantastic example, but it's what's so great about it is it took the entire episode to get us to this place. Usually the bait and switch is done in the same scene or, a scene later. Your previously held notions of what the thing is are turned on their heads. But they have walked us down this entire episode before giving us this marvelous switch. Mm-hmm. And again, attentive X-Files fans would go, well, maybe it's Dana's baby. We know that she's had that whole pregnancy thing. We saw it. What happened with that? Clearly the writers saw it too, because they thought, well, that's the basis for a pretty great two-parter that we got in mind. Mm-hmm. So just on that alone, kudos to them for holding it together to get to this end point. And it did take the three of them, I think, to make it happen, because anything could have happened that would have made this episode fall apart.
Yeah, and I do want to say that when you first watch the episode, I don't think I did, and I don't know about you, but I don't think I even went there in my head as, like, that's where they're going with this.
You were Team Melissa. I was too. I was like, the transfer to make it Dana's problem now, like abjectly connected to her. Mm-hmm. And then just casting away Melissa, I thought, I even wrote, I went very ho-hum, from being very ho-hum about this episode to have a shiver go down my spine. It was just really well done. Yeah. And I wonder what the viewer count was for the following week. Yeah. Like, it must have escalated or be the same, I suppose. But, if it escalated, then it was definitely a case of everyone, I have to know how this resolves. Mm-hmm. It's one of their better cliffhangers. And I think you would have been hard-pressed to do it in one episode. I'm glad they did it in two.
Yeah.
Well, on that point, should we go and talk about the next episode?
It begins where it ends, in nothingness. A nightmare born from deepest fears, coming to me unguarded. Whispering images unlocked from time and distance. A soul unbound, touched by others but never held. On a course charted by some unseen hand. The journey ahead promising no more than my past reflected back upon me. Until at last I reach the end. Facing a truth I can no longer deny. Alone, as ever.
So from the end of the episode, we are going to go straight into Emily. And immediately we pick up with a monologue from Scully. She's in a dark, sheer robe, wisping in the winds, walking through like a white desert. Her monologue is a lot of obscure stuff.
It's very, obviously I cannot find the right word, but it touches on the subject matter without delving into it deeply. Like it's good foreshadowing, right? Because if you read between the lines, then obviously it's talking about, the fact that they made me pregnant in season 2, and now we get to find out what's the result of that. Mm-hmm. All I got to say about the actual dream sequence is that must have been hell to shoot, because she's walking around. She's walking around like completely nonplussed. The wind is whacking her pretty hard, but she's on a sand lot or something. Mm-hmm. So you got to imagine she's getting sandblasted at the same time. Unless it's all...
Yeah, she's doing pretty good about keeping.
It could be CGI, face. I suppose, but I didn't imagine they'd spend much dough on these episodes. I was about to say the direction takes a bit of a better turn. I don't mind the direction of the previous episode, but nothing about it really stood out. Mm-hmm. It was very much script. It was very much actor. And I think that the director just sort of stick-handled it to make sure the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. But other than that, there was nothing particularly stand out. With this opening sequence, this is Kim Manners definitely putting his thumbprint on it and going, we're going to open with a bit of a bang. We're going to make them wait a bit before we get into the details of our big reveal from the last episode.
And basically the scene ends with her picking up the cross necklace, and she essentially turns to sand and dissolves away, alone as ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the credits. So, after the credits, Mulder's back. He's approaching what I think is a daycare. Is that correct? Or is it...
It's the...
Children's Center, yeah.
Yeah, that's where the kids live.
He's looking for the special needs ward, and a lady directs him there. And in he finds Scully in a room watching Emily color. And they actually introduce Mulder, and he puts on a kind of a cute display for the kid, showing he's actually not terrible with the little ones.
He's daddy material.
He doesn't immediately go into conspiracy mode with the kid. So,
do you remember anything about when they abducted you, Emily?
I'd like you to meet Dr. Verber.
My question would be that if Dana now has irrefutable evidence that she's Emily's mother, shouldn't the adoption be a slam dunk?
You'd think.
Why do you always say that when I present a really legit proposal and you're like,
well, hold on.
Imagine.
I don't know how adoptions work, but being a biological parent, I don't know that it would just be that easy.
But the state's not made of money. I'm sure
I don't know where to go with that. Like, I can see it both sides. Like, okay, this is obviously her mom. I can prove it. But she was with another family who adopted her. Now they're dead. Mm-hmm. We don't know who you are necessarily. We know you work for the government. But it's like, I can understand that there would be a problem.
Well, and we have a scene later on where
yeah,
Mulder and Scully have their day in court, basically. And the guy does say, look, this is a really weird situation. Walk me through it. Mm-hmm. So I get it. But at the same time, well, I guess the end result here is that Dana's being denied her rights, her custodial rights, because the plot demands that she be denied her custodial rights. You know, that is now our, her cause that she's going to try and fight.
So after Mulder gets introduced, they talk in private for a moment, and he tells her that Frohickey has hacked into the California Social Services adoption services, and he found out that Anna Fugazi is the name of her biological mother.
Yeah.
And he points out that Fugazi is a word for fake, so it's a completely bogus record in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Emily came into this world through different means, and he gently asks Scully to really consider, where she came from. It's kind of his way of pushing her to be like, I can't answer this question for you, but you need to kind of remember that you were abducted and things happened to you, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's doing his level best to be thoughtful in this case. He's not just being completely conspiracy nut and let's talk about how your kid's an alien yet. We'll get there, yeah.
Yeah. Scully ultimately just wants to protect her, and she feels like she can do that because even though there is some crazy stuff happening here, she feels she's the one to kind of save the day.
Mm-hmm. Something's wrong, isn't it?
Found Emily's surrogate mother. I had Frohickey hack into the California Social Services adoption database.
You got a name?
Yeah. Her mother of record is one Anna Fugazi.
Fugazi?
Yeah, isn't slang term for fake.
I don't understand. Why create a false record?
Because there are no true records. Emily didn't come into this world through any system that keeps them.
Well, how did she come into this world?
Have you asked yourself that?
Well, she was born to someone. She had to belong to someone.
Someone who's proven that they'll do anything to protect her or their interest in her.
I can protect her, too.
Yeah, but who's going to protect you? Emily's adoptive parents are both dead by no accident.
I know. I've considered that, but I've also considered that there's only one right thing to do.
Emily.
Why didn't you call me sooner?
Because I couldn't believe it. But I need you now to be a witness on my behalf in this hearing.
And I should have declined. If I never want to see you hurt or harmed in any way.
Then why are you here?
Because I know something that I haven't said. Something that they'll use against you to jeopardize your custody of Emily. No matter how much you love this little girl, she is a miracle that was never meant to be, Scully.
Well, it's that classic trope of I am withholding this information to protect you.
Yeah.
You know, if you knew about it, it would do more harm than good, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the upshot of that particular sentiment is always tell the truth. I
Right.
mean, even if it's going to do harm, always tell the truth, because to be discovered in the lie later is more harm than good in that case. So it is just better to be transparent and let the person who the information is about make the decision whether it's harmful. You know, like, what right do you have to withhold this information? But I like that it creates some tension between them. You know, that's
For
refreshing.
a moment. From here, we go to the San Diego Hall of Justice. Mulder's waiting in the hall here. And
Some sunflower seeds.
out comes Bill with his wife and Margaret. He just kind of looks him in the eye and just kind of sidesteps past him and goes into the room with Scully. It's pretty awesome.
Well, Bill's look back in that case, it's like there are literally daggers coming out of that guy's eyes.
So I think, in a nutshell, the guy doing the deciding is unimpressed by Mulder's story that Scully was taken and her ova were removed from her, which is the revelation that Mulder has for Scully. He could have probably done this beforehand and kind of let her know it gently. But yeah, to hear about it in the hearing, that's kind of rough.
I take exception with the idea that Scully wouldn't know this information. You know, I could see her as being, you know, really interested in the issues that have occurred with her own body, you know, as a result of the abduction with her cancer. Like, I'm surprised that level of detail she would not know.
It's kind of hit or miss. I understand completely what you're saying, but we have seen before that she's very resistant to even talking about it, thinking about it. So when she meets those women in Allentown, Pennsylvania, in season 3, she
shuts down. Yeah.
Granted, that's a very abrupt and scary situation to walk into a house and have everyone tell you they know you, but I think it goes without too much thought that she's just not interested in delving too deep into this.
Okay.
Like, she doesn't want to think about it. She knows about the experience, and she's just trying to flush that out.
Yeah. You're going to focus on my career.
And he's going to bat for her in a very strong way. It's a part of Mulder. You know, we see this kind of dogged determination for the fantastic, but we don't often see it for his partner or something very, very down to earth. So this is really kind of a cool scene for me.
Well, it also sets up the idea that Scully is the Virgin Mary. There's a better allusion to it later on in the episode, but if you walk back and think about it, I mean, this is kind of the corner they're painting her into.
I was trying to make it whatever.
I'm sorry.
From here, we go to Bill's house. Scully confronts Mulder. Why didn't you tell me? And he lays it out. You know, I thought I was protecting you. I didn't know this was going to happen, which isn't an excuse, but at the same time,
It's a reason, not an excuse.
yeah, I believe he did it out of the best intentions, but still.
Always tell the truth, early and often. That's the policy.
And he says, you know, I knew of genetic experiments, but I didn't know who or what or why this was being done. So they're interrupted by a phone call. No one's
As
there.
the plot demands.
Yes, the plot demands. I'm in a weird situation.
How do we get out of this awkward scene? Better have a package delivered or a phone call.
So Mulder has the call traced, and then they find out it comes from the Children's Center. So even though it's late at night, they rush in. All the kids are sleeping, and they find Emily there sleeping as well. And when Scully sits on her bed, she kind of wants to be nice to her and
As you are with children.
pet her or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just being funny.
I believe the term is comforting.
No.
Yeah.
Petting.
There's a bit
She's
of,
sweating
forehead
profusely.
sweat.
She has a fever. The lady social worker calls 911. Mulder picks up Emily, and upon doing so, he finds something disturbing. What is that, Andrew?
It is the fact that she's wearing 100% polyester. The state has not put really nice clothes on her.
Correct.
Yes.
This is why she's sweating. She does not need the hospital.
She's not breathing through those natural fibers. Yeah.
Thank you for the Seinfeld reference. Well, it is a natural fiber.
No, I believe the answer you're looking for is a alien-like carbuncle on the base of the girl's neck.
Yes.
Clearly, well, maybe it just happened, and
It just grew.
yeah. But before we talk about alien carbuncles, Your Honor, I'd like to renew my objection to the phone call subplot.
Uh-oh.
Again, I put it to you that Emily's superpower is that she can make phones near Scully go off and transmit a message through the PBX system or whatever it is, only when the plot demands it. Really, when Emily is in danger or when something scary is happening around Emily.
Yeah.
But we don't even hear Melissa on this one. I mean, if it's not a little bit more clear, I'd say, yeah, this is Emily. She's moved on.
This is over. It's not me. No one cares anymore.
She does not get credit on this episode, so they've moved on. Plot has moved on, that's for sure. But anyway, I just put it out there. Yeah.
He finds the alien bump on the back of her neck, which brings to mind anyone who's been watching the show. Okay, the shapeshifters all have this, so that means something. Not just it's weird that a child has a green lump on the back of her neck, but I think they used some CG for this. If you look closely at that bump, it looks a little computer animated. It is a lot more animated than it has been before. Okay, so from here we go straight to the hospital. Mulder speaks with the social worker, but she has not been able to reach Emily's doctor. The doctor, of course, being Dr. Calderon.
Yeah.
The doctor in the hospital thinks there's an infection related to the cyst on the neck. And as Scully speaks to the doctor, Mulder watches the nurse in her room. The nurse is attending to Emily, and suddenly he starts tapping on the window, pounding on the window, telling her to stop and get away. We, as the audience, don't know why, but it soon happens that she rolls Emily over and pokes the back of her neck, and sure enough, the green liquid flies out. Poisons her, burns her eyes.
I knew that was going to happen, though, because they said that they were going to do a biopsy on it. And as soon as you touch green alien bits, you know badness is going to happen. So
I think it was kind of fun for me personally just to see like the wheels turning in Mulder's head.
It was good. Yeah. It's like, we haven't had this for 3 seasons. What? I've moved on. I don't believe in aliens anymore.
And then Emily does something a little creepy. The nurse is writhing on the ground, clutching her eyes because they're burning with toxins. And she just kind of sits up and looks at her and nothing's wrong. She's not intended to be creepy. I don't think. I mean, she is maybe in this scene. In this scene, yeah, maybe. But overall, I don't think she's like meant to be the tropey horror show creepy little girl.
I'm sorry, that reaction is creepy. She should have been freaked out by that, and she is not. So I don't know why they made that choice.
Yeah. So after the commercial break, we open in on the quarantine ward. Scully's like, "How did you know?" And he's like, "I just had a hunch because it occurred to me that the same physiology we've seen in the past would have similar results."
My issue with this whole thing is like, I'm sorry, I'm the doctor, I'm the attending that's there, that's been dealing with Emily's care, and one of my senior nurses or whatever has just been poisoned with gas that emitted from this carbuncle on the back of Emily's neck.
I like the carbuncle.
That's what
do you mean barnacle?
No, carbuncle is a thing.
I know what carbuncle is, but I didn't.
Barnacle would be even better. But like, no one is upset about this. Like, no one is like, let's take her to the CDC or whatever. Like, This is some seriously weird shit here. Well, they put it. We're wearing basic masks. I mean, come on, this is.
They don't work.
Yeah, this is the basic. not N95s. That's what I'm saying. But it's just the level of laissez-faire around this. Like, oh yeah, poison gas neck. That happens around here.
He doesn't reference what he just witnessed at all.
No, exactly.
So it is a little weird. It's like, yeah, you almost lost someone that you were working with.
She's gonna be fine.
Yeah, she'll be fine.
This kind of thing happens all the time around here. Yeah.
We had a case of spontaneous red eye.
Yeah. So I think this is one of those cases where the script demanded something cool happen, and it is a great scene, and I like the wheels turning in Mulder's head for it to happen, but it's one of those scenes where it's like, okay, you've opened this box, but realistically, no one would just walk away from this development.
Dismiss it.
Yeah, it's like, this is some seriously crazy shit that just happened here.
Yeah.
Why are you not like bringing in people from all over the place and writing up articles on this kid?
Mm-hmm.
Like, my favorite parallel for this, and I've always hated it, is the one where the devil is in the PTA, that episode. I can't remember her name. De Handy Verlet.
I can't believe you couldn't. I was letting you work that one out.
It's one of my favorite episodes.
You love that episode.
Okay, so the scene where Mulder's getting a drink from the fountain and he looks down and the Coriolis effect is going backwards. It's like, freaking call NASA, because like that's impossible. But he's just like, something weird is happening here.
Neat.
Yeah, so like this is another exact case where it's like, this kid spurted poison out of her neck. What the hell? Like, he knows that the aliens are out there, but surely the attending, we should really get Dr. Calderon over here. You know? All right, I rest my case. Let's move on.
To finish this scene, the doctor at the hospital comes in and says, Emily's doctor, Dr. Calderon, refuses to send over her files. And Scully takes huge exception to that. He's endangering her, and the doctor turns the tables and says, well, he says that if you're keeping her here, you're keeping her out of his care. Therefore, you are endangering her life, not him.
They can't take Emily to his hospital? Like, why does she have to be here? It's like, I thought that this was an opportunity for Calderon to be less creepy, and he blew it.
Yeah, he blew it. From here, we go to Prangan Pharmaceuticals again.
Am I director?
And this time, we probably get the best scene in this two-parter.
I'd like to say right up front that I know Emily Sim personally, as your partner probably told you, and my God, I never met a sweeter, more courageous little girl. I'm so sorry to hear about her downturn. My hope is that these custody issues can be resolved so that she can resume her treatment here. But I'm afraid I simply can't release any information about her as relates to our company's experimental drug trials.
What can I say to convince you?
It's really not about convincing me. I mean, this is something that we simply cannot do. It's purely a business reality. It has to do with Prangen's exposure to litigation. And, of course, our need to protect research, which, frankly, represents a significant dollar investment.
So I'm wasting your time. This is not worth the life of a 3-year-old girl.
No, I wouldn't frame it like that. That's not it at all. Look, I'm truly sorry, but there's really nothing I can do. However, I do wish you the very best.
Well, everything he's saying, I buy, ultimately.
I
kind of
buy
Calderon here because, they got a drug to make. Might save Emily's life.
I love he goes for the handshake and Mulder just slams his face down on his desk. This is awesome Mulder for me. I'm like, oh man.
And I like it. I like the scene, except for, isn't this a career-ending move on Mulder's part? And
well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
If he was 1 ounce wrong, yes. But he took the gamble here.
Yeah.
He beat the shit out of this guy, kicking him while he's crawling on the floor, throwing him up against a bookcase or whatever, pulling his gun on him and threatening his life.
I believe that there are some regulations about threatening civilians with firearms.
No, you can do it at least once a year. Yeah, just once.
He needs to get a search warrant for that. That's what search warrants are for, is to intimidate. I would like us to improvise the scene following that with security guard looking on. It's like,
the security guard's like dumbfounded. First of all, he enters when the fight's over, pretty much.
Yeah.
But Mulder does have his gun out.
Dr. Calderon, do you want me to follow that guy? I mean, like, should we escort him out of the building? I think he doesn't want to leave a mark.
No.
You know, he wants to get his point across, but he doesn't. And the kick that he gives him on the ground is a little bit, pansy as well, too. There's a little bit of a...
Yeah, he is holding back a little bit. But yeah, so he threatens his life. He wants him to give him everything that can help the little girl, and then he just leaves once everyone sees what's happening. He says, I'll be back. I don't expect him to stay there, but at the same time, I think he's setting him up for the next scene where he's just going to tail him.
You know what? I'm convinced by your argument that this is Mulder making a gamble that this action will not actually get him in trouble. That for Calderon to basically come up for air to make some kind of complaint would be to expose himself to a greater risk.
Right.
So I'm good with that. That as you say, Mulder's bullshit detector has gone off sufficiently that he's like, I'm going to put some major pressure on this guy and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. And he kind of falls into the trap. Mulder's waiting for him to leave, and as soon as he does, he begins to tail him. But we're not there yet. So we go back to the hospital. Emily's watching TV. Louie, I believe. That little cartoon.
It is. And apparently this is not the first time that Fox will drop its own shows into the background of X-Files. Yeah. And why not?
The last episode, the end, Gibson praises watching King of the Hill. And I just watched that episode the other day. I was like, hey, it's an episode of the X-Files. No.
You know what this show reminds me of? The X-Files.
The weird thing is they were watching that episode and that episode. No, but they're preparing to do some tests. And of course, unfortunately for Emily, it's the scariest test you could possibly do to a 3-year-old. The big tube. Mm-hmm. Or not the tube, but the CT scan, I believe is what it's called. Yeah. Those things are horrifying. If you've ever been in one. The sound of that thing is horrifying.
I think that's the scene where the Emily that they had before lost it. She just...
I wouldn't blame her.
That was just like, time to get a new Emily.
Yep.
They do a technique in this which is really effective because, I think maybe to avoid freaking out Emily number 2, they don't show her in the machine. They don't show her reaction. But as you say, the sound effects kind of sell it. But what really sells it is Scully's reaction as she's watching this happen, and she sort of is just jerking with each of the clunks or whatever. It's just really, it's well shot. I mean, kudos to Kim Manners for how he puts it together.
Yeah.
Well, they show somebody going in a bag of potatoes or something. But... yeah, a bag of potatoes with a little face drawn on it and a wig. They're not going to take the risk of losing a second girl. They don't want to do the casting again. Yes, I've blown up Mike again.
It's just like her stunt potato. Oh, 2 episodes. What the fuck? Okay, we are good. Dr. Calderon, right after this short scene, he arrives at a huge house and his apparent associates are waiting for him. He tells them that Mulder knows of some involvement with something and they aren't happy that they've led him to them. So they force him to the ground, use the space stiletto on the back of his neck, and he dissolves, and they both turn into Dr. Calderon.
Okay, I have questions.
Yes.
Are they illuminating him because he's a bad judge of character, or just takes bad choices, and he's like...
They're eliminating him because he's making mistakes, is essentially what I got.
I'd go with that, but...
They've essentially led someone who's investigating. They don't necessarily know who Mulder is, but he works for the government, and he's investigating the little girl that they've got an eye on. So maybe that it's just they're pissed off about the attention.
Yeah. I mean, the what if here is, oh, Mr. Mulder, why don't you come inside and I'll tell you all about Emily, and I've changed my mind. The notes are here, and they bring him inside and give Mulder the old space stiletto to the back of the neck as well. Or just let Mulder shoot him or, whatever, expose a little poison gas, and now Mulder's, there's any way they could have wrapped this up without the elaborate. I mean, it was decent, the idea of like, we're going to now have Calderon immediately leave the house and,
well, you have to think, because they want to easily throw him off the scent because later on in the episode, he's following the wrong one.
I mean, they trot out the shape-shifting alien thing whenever it's convenient, but not when it makes sense.
I will say this to counter that point, not to just because I love the show, but they have established that killing Mulder would just draw too much attention, but I don't think this is on that level. I think it's on the level of things are getting out of control, and these two guys are like, okay, we can't just kill him because that's going to lead to more questions, and we got some work to do here still. And if our base of operations or whatever is infested with police officers, things are going to go even worse. So that would be why I wouldn't just kill Mulder.
Okay, well,
if I'm writing this episode.
If you're writing this episode, you might also, I don't know, touch on the question of what they're actually doing here. Because, like, it seems to me they're just cleaning up some loose ends. The parents are out of the picture. What is there left to do?
Well, this isn't the Sin House, right? This is...
No, well, it doesn't matter.
I believe, if I pieced it together correctly when I last watched the episode, this is the old folks' home.
Oh, and Mulder comes back here?
Yeah. Because I'm almost positive when he comes back at night, it's the same house.
All right. Well, I've got it running in the background here, so maybe I will be attentive to that. But I just... All right, so their next job is to clean up in the old folks' home. So they're damage control now. Mm-hmm. And as you say, the mythology is intact that Mulder is so special they can't intervene against him directly.
Yeah.
Okay. My objections are temporarily assuaged. For now.
So, Dr. Calderon leaves, and Mulder follows. The end of that scene. Now that it's 5 minutes later.
Can I just say, I do like the callback to season 2 clone shenanigans.
Yes.
And, the old space stiletto, I can't remember, they probably used the same sound effect. They just brought everything out, and it was some pretty good nostalgia for that particular arc. Mm-hmm. But after this episode, it will not happen again. So they've done a little tour down memory lane, or maybe it does happen again, actually.
It happens.
It does? Okay. I see. I never remember when this stuff happens.
You are losing points with the audience.
Oh, no. Never happens again the same way. That's what I meant to say.
Well, definitely not to the same people.
Right. Okay.
So, from there, we go to the hospital.
Right.
Emily's getting her brain scanned. We find out that she has a tumorous infection. The cyst is the point of origin, and it's growing rapidly. And those little veins, it's not cancer, but they're channels coming from the cyst, and it's killing the surrounding tissue. And it could not be in a worse place.
It's very dramatic. She's a 3-year-old. No, they don't really develop a brain until like 30, 32 years old.
Well, she does. It could just be her potato.
That's her potato double. We put the potato in the cats again. This is all wrong.
Oh, man. While Scully's getting this information, Dr. Calderon arrives, and he goes straight to Emily's room, uncaps a needle. We get a weird cut. Scully's gotten the information. She's heading back to Emily's room, and she sees Dr. Calderon rush past her. Her alarms immediately go off. She checks on Emily, and then she calls for him to be pursued. Asks people to call the police, that kind of thing. And when she catches up with him, it's a different man. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, my God.
It really looks like they just grabbed an old guy who did not know he was in a TV show. What the fuck?
Yes. I work here at the hospital. Yeah, it's a nice touch. They've gone to that well before, but as I say, we're bringing out all the the greatest hits of the aliens, shape-shifting aliens. So I'm okay with that. My particular thing here, and again, I do the what if thing when. Why is he here at all? What's he doing? He's
still protecting her.
Yeah, but why? This is bad alien, isn't he?
Yes,
One of the
yes,
guys who just
but
killed the other Calderon. So
yeah, they're.
My point is, like, why is he here at all? Like, why do we need to have this scene when it sounds to me like give it a couple hours and Emily's out of here for good anyway, unless there's more data to be gathered, maybe.
I think that's the idea, is that they're still using her for whatever tests. Do we ever, and maybe I'm just being really stupid here, but do we ever find out what the fuck they're even doing?
No.
Because
No.
here's probably the weakest point for me. The aliens are working with humans, but they're not working with humans in the sense that they're going to create an alien-human hybrid to withstand the invasion that they are planning.
Yeah.
So what are aliens doing, like testing things on the girl? We don't know what exactly their angle is here, so it's like...
Well, the problem is they kind of shoehorn the mythology element into this Scully story, right? Like, I think they're trying to extricate themselves from a depressing Scully story by giving the other viewers who might not enjoy that something to glom onto. And it's this, it's shape-shifting aliens and space stilettos and all the rest of it. So, yeah, there's something there. And because they don't give you enough to actually understand, they sort of give that to you like it's mysterious. But in fact, it's just like...
It's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, it does not... It's unsatisfying because it doesn't give you enough to actually answer any questions.
Yeah. Back to the episode.
That was gold, and I hope you use that.
We might. Mulder is outside. He's on the phone with Scully. She's telling him that Dr. Calderon was in the hospital. He's like, that's not possible. He's following the wrong Dr. Calderon. And once she tells him that he just left, he puts together that maybe they were trying to help Emily, not harm her. And they want her alive, but for different reasons. And here is where we get Kresge. He comes back, Detective Kresge. He's got here to post men out in front of Emily's room. He thinks he's helping, but yet again, one last time, Scully changes directions on him and says she's in no danger at all.
For no great reason, really. It's like, yeah.
Feel bad for this man.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just trying to help.
He can't do anything right. It's his curse. Who's Dr. Calderon, really? I mean, I thought maybe they were pulling Jebediah, whatever his name was, from... Jeremiah Smith. I like my Jebediah Smith. He's got a sideline in making, authentic oak furniture.
He used a horse to get everywhere.
That's right. They cut that all out from the show. All right, so that was my take, was that it was another Jeremiah Smith, and they were all the same clone. But then again, that episode was convoluted too, because I never really knew. Okay, we've got one shape-shifting alien, and then there's another shape-shifting alien, and the one doesn't like the other, and I couldn't keep track of what was going on there. So I don't know what I just proved. Again, this was my whole thing of why did they come here in the first place? Like, it doesn't clear anything up for the audience. It doesn't. I like that it kind of diverts Scully and makes her think, well, maybe there's something else here. And, I think also Emily gets better, right? Like
right.
The injection that Calderon gives her makes her temporarily better. So there's this thing of ultimately the choice is, and Mulder's got the green goo vials or whatever. And, if you just keep on injecting her, then she can continue to live. But that doesn't happen. So I guess I just don't understand why that had to happen at all.
Yeah.
The ominous men kill Dr. Calderon because he made a bad mistake of bringing Mulder to them. But then they go on making their own bad mistakes. They show up at the hospital and get caught by Scully. And so it's like, do you kill yourself now because you've screwed up? Like, that's the logic. Yeah, okay. So...
They don't think things
anyway,
through.
Convoluted is an excellent word to describe what's happening here, because I left this episode not understanding it, and it was bothersome.
Yeah, not their finest effort, but We cut to Mulder is outside. It's nighttime. He gets out of his car and he runs up to I believe the house that Calderon was going to. It turns out it's a rest home for the elderly, apparently.
It makes sense, Mike, because there's absolutely no reason why he's arriving here. He doesn't say to Scully when he's on the phone with her, "Oh yeah, I'm following up on this new lead," or whatever. But you're right. This is the house they must have been at before. It's just different looking because it's now dark.
He catches a glimpse of a room with the name Fugazi on it, and he enters to find an elderly woman and starts questioning her in the middle of the night. This is supposedly her actual name.
I hear when you're old, you only sleep 2 hours a night. That's how it works. And you pee 50 times.
Beauty rest schedule.
Yes.
We're cut back to the hospital. Emily's vitals are nearly back to normal, but the growth is out of control, basically. It's necrotizing the tissues. It is, in fact, killing her, and they should be thankful she's not in any pain. This is the bit where, the social worker comes in and questions Scully and her decisions because really she's not legally responsible yet. So she's getting differing opinions on what's going on with Emily, and she's concerned that Scully's making decisions that she has no supposed right to make. So things are getting a little hectic for Scully. And convoluted, maybe.
It's an interesting take, and I do appreciate that they have constructed this elaborate legal situation they find themselves in, and that Chambliss, the adoption agent, is pretty spot on with confronting Scully with it. But I will say that it is a pretty badass moment for Scully, and when she is, basically saying, you can get this court order if you want, you can enforce it, but I'm going to do what's best for this child. She's really... putting her line in the sand and saying, this is the way it's going to be. And I think it's great.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Only what we expect from Jillian.
Give her one little bit of meaty dialogue and she will act the shit out of it.
But Mulder is now on the phone with Frohickey, and he's giving Mulder the birth records of women who they gave birth to. Mulder is giving him names off a list, and it turns out all 8 names are hits. They all have PMZ200 Durtab, which are pregnancy hormones, I guess. And you would not give them to pregnant women because they have them in abundance.
I have to say, though, I love the comic interaction between them. He's like, oh, yeah, is there anybody there I might have a chance with?
He's only on screen for 20 seconds, but sure enough, he's still horny.
He's the steam stealer.
Still horny.
Yep.
Mulder starts talking to Anna Fugazi again. She's waiting on Dr. Calderon, and she mentions waiting for her beauty sleep.
Yeah. My what if, my question at this point would be, how has Mulder gotten this much access to this place?
Not a person in charge in sight.
Yeah. And like if the dynamic ominous duo are on cleanup duty, then they are letting it slip. Yeah. What else are they doing?
Not a security guard on the grounds.
I mean, at least at Prangan, they had one security guard who did nothing when Mulder waved his gun around. But
he showed up for work. He just didn't do anything. So back at the hospital, yet another tube test for Emily. Scully's controlling it. Emily is getting uncomfortable, and Scully sees the veins on her arm expand. Stressful piano music ensues.
It's the only kind of piano music.
And then back to Mulder again. He's investigating a plastic room, which is basically just a dark room with plastic sheets hanging down from the ceiling.
Listen, that Christmas set at the Scully household cost a lot of money to put together. They did not have a lot left over for
I'm not commenting.
Spooky
it was interesting
pregnancy lab.
So he pulls the curtains back, and it's a bunch of elderly women on medical beds, apparently, and they all have IVs. They're all asleep. Mulder spots a refrigerating unit. Not a refrigerator, a refrigerating unit.
There's
no Pepsi in here, is there?
Well, we don't have the right camera angle. There could be a Pepsi back there. I would just like to ask, how do they sign up these people for these experiments? Like,
it's got to be under the pretense of something. Obviously, that one lady thinks it's beauty rest. That's obviously not the case.
Yeah.
9 months of beauty rest, and she's pooping out a child.
Yeah.
So he opens the refrigerator, pulls out a large metal box, and opens it to find some names on a tag. And sure enough, he sees Scully's name. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, and this gets some classic stuff going for X-Files, you know. This is where the good stuff's going to happen.
Scully got the last one. He gets this one. She pulled the...
That's right.
The little...
Yeah, from the Erlenmeyer flask, yeah.
So he pulls out a canister that's inside this box. It's got green liquid in it, and inside the green liquid is what appears to be a fetus. A very, very unborn child, but big enough to see the humanoid shape for sure. And it kicks. And I think David Duchovny was about to laugh, but held it together and got the scene done. But yeah, so Mulder steals a bunch of vials of green liquid, and sure enough, a car is parking outside, and he has to hide. But he can't do it in time, and who sneaks up on him but Kresge?
That's a nice little switch.
Yeah.
Classic bait and switch, but I'm surprised he didn't sort of go, whoa, 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 I'm a good guy.
Yeah, he tries. Before they can exchange too much dialogue, in comes one of the Dr. Calderon. And the detective corrects his aim and then aims at Calderon. Mulder keeps telling him not to do anything, don't shoot, blah, blah, blah.
Would have helped to say why.
Yeah, Mulder knows what's going to happen, but he's like getting his escape down or sealed. So he's like, I don't know about you, but
I am putting you out of the picture.
I'm out of here. As Mulder's slowly walking away from the situation with Kresge and Dr. Calderon, he keeps telling him not to fire, and sure enough, he fires, and Mulder escapes. Kresge goes down with the toxic gas.
He apparently isn't dead, though, because there's the magic cure now just to get your body temperature down.
I do like this next sequence where the alien morphs into Kresge and goes outside. Tells Mulder that he's got him subdued. And Mulder believes him for like 3 seconds. And when he realizes he's wrong, he turns around and sure enough, Kresge's leaving in the Jeep that Yep. He's like, damn it.
Yeah, it's a nice reveal. I liked it.
Yeah. Mulder had a lapse in judgment, but at least he realized it pretty quick. So we go to the hospital. Scully's with Emily. She's sleeping. And we get the last few scenes of Scully being sad Scully as she looks on. Mulder arrives. She's in a coma. And Scully comes to realize if she could treat her, she wouldn't do it because she wasn't meant to be. And she could not do that to her. Which is kind of dark, but at the same time, it's caring in its own way because, you know, she doesn't want Emily to be part of some sort of evil agenda.
Unfortunately, what it is it's the result of the writers going, how do we end this episode in a way which doesn't have Scully taking care of a 3-year-old now? like they need to tie things up so that we can get back to the other storylines, but they need to do it in a dramatically appropriate way. It's dark and callous, but that's, as you said, that's the hole they've dug for themselves here. And I'm not sure I really buy it. Like, nobody wanted this child to live, so let's let her go. It's like...
So Scully stays with Emily. She gets into bed with her and kind of comforts her, since that's what the word you want to use from the beginning of the episode.
I believe that's the appropriate word.
She begins petting her. No. And we get a dissolve into a stained glass window. Obviously, it's the funeral.
Obviously, that's the Virgin Mary.
Yeah. I got it.
So symbolism is not lost on you. I will recount the story of the Virgin. Okay. I think
yes, please tell me.
Yes. We'll be turning to It's definitely a bit thick at this point. Yeah.
Scully is sitting in a pew. People are just kind of passing her, and Margaret puts a hand on her shoulder. They hug. She's gonna get a ride with Mulder. Fuck Bill one last time.
Mm-hmm. Tara's not so happy now, though, is she?
Turns out that Tara's got the baby.
Yeah.
You happy now? They leave, thank God.
Kids are wonderful, aren't they? You're going to want 1,000,000 of them.
Scully takes a look at Emily's casket again. Mulder comes in and leaves flowers on it because he's a good person.
Yeah. He spent $19.95 on those flowers. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Scully wonders in this moment, who could create a life? whose only hope is to die. Mulder says he doesn't know, but maybe she was also meant to be found by Scully and to be loved and cared for. Kresge's doing better, so we know he's alive. The men cleaned up the nursing home. All the evidence was destroyed. And Scully says, no, there's still evidence of what they did. And she walks to Emily's casket. She opens it. She finds mashed potatoes.
I think Mulder already knows that the cleanup would have gone on to include Emily's body.
Yep.
That's my guess, is that he's like, oh, you're not going to like what you find in there.
Yep.
A bunny rabbit with maggots on it. Yeah, so I get that there's the renewed sense of purpose for Scully at this point, and it's classic X-Files to have that pulled out from you at the end, like, they burned all our evidence. But the good part of this reveal is the full circle element of it, because we open the episode with the dream sequence, the cross in the sand, and we get to see that image again here.
Yep. Scully picks up the necklace, holds it up, and it fades to black. End of episode. Mm-hmm. All right. So we just did 2 episodes. For the sake of tying this whole thing up together, we're going to do final thoughts for both episodes. The whole story, kind of put it together since we're doing one big episode.
Probably the pinnacle for me was the end of the first episode in this arc, the reveal that Dana was the actual mother. I think that's probably, well, I mean, I gushed about it then, so I can gush about it now. Like, it was well done that they misdirected us to a point where we didn't see it coming, or at least I didn't see it coming. I'm sure lots of people saw it coming, and I'm just dumb. But I think the conclusion of it, though, with its attempt to try and expand the narrative, was probably a bit ham-handed. Like, it didn't make sense in a lot of ways. It just sort of happened because it needed to happen. It needed to tease out the details to make it interesting to a wider viewers, and maybe try and use the alien shapeshifters and all the rest of it to make a more interesting story. I just found it convoluted, and I didn't get anything out of it. It certainly didn't expand the mythology arc to make it make any more sense or answer questions, right? Because that's whenever you watch the X-Files and they go into mythology, you're like, oh, they're going to give us some nuggets that we're going to understand more for this greater story, right. And that's what you wanted. It didn't happen here. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably the reason it's disappointing for a lot of people.
I very much agree with those sentiments. For the 2 episodes, I think they're fine, but they're just not put together well. Like, I enjoyed the first episode a little bit more because there was more of a mystery to it for me, and it was fun to get to that reveal. I do think the reveal helps that episode a lot. All in all, like, the mythology of it, up until this point, it's like the mythology would feed us new things while answering old things. This didn't feel like it was doing either. It didn't give us any new information because I don't feel like we as viewers weren't aware that stuff like this was happening, right? So the only new thing is that now it's happening to one of our heroes, and they didn't leave us with any questions to expand or move the mythology forward necessarily.
Well, and they've already told this storyline twice before. Like,
so it's like this is not new information. It's just an in-depth look at it, I guess. And because it's happening to Scully, now we have to care a little bit more. So it didn't feel quite as earned, and it feels very forgotten and very, well, it served its purpose in the moment. Now it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, we tied a bow on the Emily storyline. Now we can move on.
Mm-hmm. They're fine episodes. They are just kind of what they are. They are definitely, I'll be blunt, when I watch this show, these are skips when they come on, and it's not because it's done poorly. It's just they're not engaging enough for me for the X-Files. And, it's hard to say that sometimes, but, all shows have low points. And so while Vince Gilligan, Spotnitz, and Sheban are excellent writers, and they did do a good job here, it's just not enough. And I think they kind of were chasing their own tails with this one. They didn't know quite what they wanted to say with this one. They didn't move the mythology forward at all, and I feel like all the information was already recycled. So it's a skip for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think it's a fair assessment completely.
How about listener comments? I do have one that I definitely agreed with. Let me see. Yes, I have one from Olivia Stanbridge. She says, I think Scully has an incredible therapist. Abductions, implant, having punchable Bill as a brother, sister murdered, finding out you have a child, choosing to let your child die rather than keep being tested on, giving up William, oops, spoiler, partner disappearing, sulking at the drop of a hat, being around people like Colton and Phoebe. She truly is Wonder Woman. Agreed. It does strike me as odd that the Emily storyline is largely forgotten about. I'm well versed in pushing some deep, dark, emotional stuff down in an attempt to get on with life. But a child you didn't know about being some kind of hybrid experiment seems kind of a big deal.
Well, this is a classic problem that X-Files has, right? They open up these big Pandora's boxes, and then their characters go back to living these normal lives. And it's like any normal person, like any the circumstances of any one of these episodes that a normal person goes through, that would scar you for life.
Right.
You might be committed as a result of some of these actions, but we give them as FBI agents a whole lot more agency, and we think, oh, well, they can just deal with these because they're superheroes, basically. So the thing that I would like most about the X-Files is its way to sort of dance along the line of reality versus fantasy. And because it's so close to reality, when it works really well because you're like, you can see it happening. But then when it goes off the dock and just does these things that are like, nah, I can't really buy that.
Right.
That's when you start kind of losing faith in the episode. And that's a good example of what I think has happened in this one. Because some things happen where it loses me and it doesn't get me back.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to kind of recoup from that because it's a big thing, but they don't treat it as big. The show doesn't treat it as big. As a viewer, I'm glad they didn't revisit it because Scully with a child is just too much for the show, I think, as proven later in the show. I don't know that there was a point to rolling this one out. The story. Like, It seems like they're just doing too much here. Well, that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're going to get out of here. Thank you for listening.
Goodbye. Don't have kids. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, I mean, do yourselves a favor. You'll
have to pet them.
You don't,
and then put stunt potatoes in their place from time to time.
Yeah, get yourself a sack of Ida. Put some wigs on it, draw a smiley face, you're good. Push it on a swing. Good potato. Good potato. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilepod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming. It's that time, everyone, the Magus Media Production sales pitch. Please check out our homepage at magusmediaproductions.net so you can stay up to date on all of our shows. Check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/magusmediaproductions, both of which have our Discord link on it, where you can join us for live shows as we record them for future release. At Magus Media Prods on X, our Patreon, patreon.com/magusmedia, where a $5 donation will help us keep the lights on and bringing you new content, and you get some stickers. Thank you for your consideration and support.